first episode of Lady Appalachia. I'm so excited and honored that you clicked on this video and that you chose to watch and join along with me on my Let's Get Acquainted. So before we started doing any sewing or cooking or storytelling, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what Lady Appalachia is and what you can expect from my videos. But before I do that, let me say thank you to the subscribes and the likes and the shares on all of my social media platforms. I was blown away by the support and the outreach. Thank you so much. I never expected that. I know this is a long process and it takes a long time. If it goes anywhere, it might not, but we're going to give it a shot. But thank you so much. I'm just so honored. And I want to say, disclaimer, I've never had social media of any kind. So I do not know what the etiquette is for Facebook, Instagram, those type things. So bear with me, I'm learning. I'm learning to upload a picture, write about the picture, and reply. And that's about it. I can give you a thumbs up or a heart. And that's all I know how to do. I still don't know what a tag is. I don't know. I just don't know. So I'm learning. So thank you for being patient with me. But I knew if I was going to run this online business that I needed social media to share my stories and my quilts with you. So thank you for being patient with me, as that's a learning curve and I'll get the hang of it. But let's talk a little bit about what Lady Appalachia is. By no means am I titling myself Lady Appalachia. I'm undeserving of that title. The title is because I want to focus on skills that are unique to the cultural aspects of the ladies of the mountains. So the ladies of Appalachia, what they did and what they continue to do and what was important to them. Primarily quilting. I will say that most of my videos will be about quilting, but with those quilts, they're usually themed. We will either visit a location unique to our area here in Millsboro, Kentucky, the tri-state area. If you're watching from non-local, some of my local folks and family and friends are watching, and then maybe some people that I don't know are watching. So just to kind of let you know where we are right here in the Cumberland Gap National Park. How blessed am I to live surrounded by these beautiful Appalachian mountains in a national park. So we'll visit some of those places and talk about those things. There's the occasional recipe that my mom and my grandmothers and my husband's grandmothers and family and great aunts, you know, it goes on and on. Friends that they've all passed down the line. So I wanted to do this because those ladies of Appalachia that I so admired growing up, they're either gone, they've left us already, or maybe their minds are leaving. Their bodies are still here, but they can't remember exactly the ingredients to the recipe, or they just can't quite remember the pattern to that quilt, or they want to tell a story, but they can't remember the names. And so what I have been able to retain and learn from them, I don't want to be lost. And we in the younger generation have kind of neglected those things. And so I don't want it to be lost. And what little I know, I want to share with you, and I want to learn from you so that we can honor this tradition and mountain heritage and continue to pass it along to our daughters and sons and so forth. So how the videos will work is I will choose a quilt pattern and some fabric, and we'll talk about the quilt we're going to make, and then sometimes, like I said, we'll link it to a location or something special about the mountains, or I'll have a recipe that goes along with it, or an Appalachian folktale. I have so many stories about times from the past. That was one thing that really interested me growing up, is I would listen to, you know, my elders talk about things from times gone by. And some of it I remember, some of it not very vividly, but I remember it, and I was interested in it. And I wish I'd paid attention more. I wish I had, you know, stood in the kitchen with my grandmothers more than I did, and my mom. But what little I did and what I did learn, I want to pass along. My whole life I wanted to be one of those ladies. you know, when we would have homecoming at church, so-and-so made the best dumplings and somebody made the best pie. And, you know, I wanted to cook like them. And when the preacher came over, you know, on Sunday nights after church, you know, they knew how to throw a cake together and put it on the table, and they made the best pot of coffee. And, you know, they were able to do that. I had a great aunt that my dad talks about a lot, his great aunt Desi Barton, and he talked about how this whole family, you know, you're talking, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people. I may be wrong about that. I'll ask him about it later. But from what I remember about the story, that's including kids and everybody. But, you know, she lived in a small house in Low Ash Holler here in Bell County, Kentucky. And they all went there, and she fed them all. And they left stuffed. And to this day, he talks about how delicious her food was. So she took a little something and she made a lot of it, and she made it memorable. So I wanted to do those things. You know, I wanted to know how to make a pot of dumplings, and I wanted to know how to make the best pie. And I wanted to be able to tell those stories and not forget those. And primarily, I just loved the beautiful quilts. And ladies of the mountains are so proud of their quilts. They made them for their family out of necessity. And they used what they had, most of the time flour sacks or scraps or clothes that, you know, their kids couldn't wear anymore. They cut them up and with just scissors, you know, no fancy tools, scissors. And they would use newspaper print or paper or cardboard, whatever they could find to make their pattern, to cut their fabric out by, and a needle and thread. And they made it out of necessity, but they were also very proud of them. They were beautiful. And when I think about Appalachia sometimes, especially in days gone by when coal was, you know, our prime industry here. When you live in the mountains and you're tucked back in a holler, and I know it's, you know, technically hollow, but we say holler, and you're back in a holler, you know, the sun shines, but not directly on your house. And because the mountains are so tall, only for a few hours a day did you get that direct sunlight. And especially during a time when all there was coal mining. The trains came through, and you know, you had the smoke from that, and your daddy or your papa came home, he was covered in coal dust. And so sometimes it was just kind of especially in the winter, a gray world. And so into a gray coal-filled haze, I think that their quilts brought a lot of beautiful color in their works of art. And so I wanted to be able to make those as well. Now, I'm by no means an expert or master quilter, so I will not call my videos tutorials. Maybe if you're brand new to quilting and you don't know anything, it might be a tutorial, but for those of you who know anything about quilting, we're just gonna call them sew-alongs, okay? We're just gonna sew together and admire the beautiful fabric and just talk together and sew together and enjoy our time and stories and recipes together. So, how my videos will work, like I said, is I will choose a fabric, and I primarily quilt with jelly rolls. Now, jelly rolls are pre-cuts. They're cheats, okay? I didn't have to take a dozen eggs down to the general store and trade it for, you know, a yard of fabric. So that's not very true to Lady Appalachia, but I'm continuing the tradition in a modern way, let's say, okay? So we will do some hand cutting. I do some English paper piecing that I'll talk about in future videos, and we hand cut those and I hand sew those. That's all by hand, and that's more, you know, of the traditional way of quilting. But I enjoy pre-cuts. They're 2.5-inch strips. There's 42, I think, and they're called jelly rolls. And I love jelly rolls. I love to sit jelly rolls out. I think they're pretty just to look at. I love coordinating fabric. Most of my quilts will be done from coordinating fabrics. I don't like to go to the store and just pick out different yardages, and I like to buy a preset of fabrics that have all been matched together that look really nice. So you'll see that my quilt shelf here with all my little trinkets is full of jelly rolls. We'll do some jelly roll quilts, but we'll also cut these strips up and we'll turn them into different prints and patterns. And so it'll be a lot of fun. So I will primarily use these. Jelly rolls are my favorite. I will be machine quilting. If you are new and you want to sew along with me, there's a few things that you'll need. You'll need a pin cushion. well, you don't need a cushion, but you need the pins, but a pin cushion is helpful. A little Appalachian story about this bowl. It's jadeite or milk glass, I think. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below. But this little bowl belonged to my husband Blaine, his grandmother Anna Ruth Irvin Mike. And it was one of the little special things. We inherited some quilts from her, and then we inherited this little bowl. And I just thought it was the sweetest, and it reminded me of something you would see in an Appalachian kitchen. And so I used to use it to feed Meredith her breakfast in. And then I thought, you know, this is special. We don't want this to get broke. So I made myself a pin cushion out of it. So you can make pin cushions out of anything. You will need a rotary cutter, and I know that's not traditional, and there's no such thing as a perfect quilt, okay? There's not. If you look at the quilts from days gone by, they are not perfect. Their stitches are not perfect. You know, maybe the cuts of fabric is not perfect, but they're still beautiful. So they're not going to be perfect, but I like to get them as close to perfect as I can. So we want to be precise. So I use a rotary cutter. As for rulers, I like to use rulers with grids and mark lines. If you don't want to invest in one of these, it's fine. When I started quilting, I used a yardstick, and I used a yardstick for a very long time. And so as long as you have a straight edge and a cutting mat, you will need a cutting mat. You can see this one of my old ones. It's seen better days. It's kind of ready to go be with Jesus. But anyways, you'll need something to protect your table for when you cut, if you cut with a rotary cutter. So I didn't cut with this yardstick, or measure, I should say, with this yardstick when I first started quilting, but I wanted to mention it. My husband, I think it was his grandfather, Ernie Mikes, and my Papa Ray worked at Giles. This is Giles Industries. So if you're one of my local folks watching, you'll know what this is. A lot of folks from around here worked at Giles Industries. And so on the back, I guess this is the names of their homes that they made. The Kentuckian, which is, you know, here in Millsboro, Kentucky. I guess that's named after our location. Pinnacle, I don't know. We have, you know, what we call the Pinnacle, where you can go up into the mountains and view the 3 states. I guess they named it after that. I don't know what Kent, Allen, or Midway means. Or maybe, you know, it's different locations. I don't know. If you know what those words mean, comment below and let me know. I would love to know more about this. But I just thought this was interesting. So Giles was an important employer here in our little part of the hills for a long time. So I thought that was interesting to share. So use a yardstick, use a straight edge, whatever you have. Some good scissors would be nice. And talking about quilt perfection, you will need a seam ripper because you will mess up. I don't care how long anyone has been sewing, they're going to mess up. So you need a seam ripper. And I get one that's comfortable for my hands because sometimes I mess up big and I have to rip for a long time. So you need a seam ripper. As far as thread goes, I use exclusively Aurifil 50 weight cotton. It's just a really nice thread for piecing. It holds the fabric together nicely. I just like it. A little shout out here, it says made in Italy. And so my husband's family, the Mike Calquiras, they are immigrants to the Appalachian Mountains. They are from Vistone, Italy originally, and they migrated here through Ellis Island. I don't know if I should have said migrated, immigrated. I don't know what the correct term for that is, migrated. Here from Vistone, Italy. And they were first sent to Jellicoe, Tennessee, which is right over the mountain here behind me, and then eventually came to Bell County and the coal camps. And so a lot of immigrants here in the mountains, a lot of Scots-Irish. I won't name them all. I don't know them all. We'll learn more about it together, and I don't want to miss anyone's heritage, but a lot of immigrants here in the mountains. So the mountains are very rich in culture of many kinds that kind of came together to make its own skill set. And that's why I think like recipes in the mountains, you know, yeah, it's southern. We talk about southern recipes. Cornbread in Appalachia, Kentucky is going to taste different than cornbread in Savannah, Georgia. 2 totally different things. So I really feel like the mountains have their own unique set of recipes and tastes. maybe acquired, maybe not. But so that's why I want to explore that a little bit more. So after the quilt has been pieced here on my machine, it will be sent to a Longarmer. Now, that's the little hiccup here that kind of holds me up on videos. I do not have a Longarm quilt machine. I will piece the quilt tops on video, but as far as sandwiching them together with batting and backing, I do not have the machine to do that, and so I will send that to a local quilter. Eventually I hope to get my own quilter so that I can cut down on that production time. And it's not that I don't want to use the local quilters. I appreciate them. I support their businesses, but I'm trying to cut down on the cost of the quilts that I sell. I want to keep them at a reasonable price. So maybe in the future I'll get a Longarm quilt machine. Until then, we'll have to wait on the quilt to come back from the Longarmer, and then I will trim it, and I will make your binding and hand bind it. We will put the binding on with needle and thread by hand, and I will show that on video. From there, the quilts go for sale. After a photo shoot, you know, we want to make some pretty pictures of these quilts, and we'll either take them to the location that they were made for, or, you know, after, with the idea in mind, or some pretty local sites here in the mountains. My daughter, Mary Celine, I'd like to take pictures of her with those. She's my Vanna. Somebody in the Facebook comments earlier, as I was trying to learn to use it, I saw them say, "Oh, Meredith is your Vanna." You know, I thought, oh, that's a good idea. She's my quilt model. I've been taking pictures of her since the incubator, so she's used to it. She knows what to do. She'll pretty much stand where I tell her and do what I tell her and smile. I have a sweet little nephew and niece, Grayson and Allison. And when this COVID scare is, you know, over, or things go back to normal and it's safer for us to be together, they'll be in some of my photos with my quilts, as well as some other maybe special cousins and friends, when we can be a little closer again. So after the photo shoot, the quilt will go up for sale on my Etsy shop. Now, I don't have that set up yet. It is being worked on. I have some things I have to finalize on the business end. I'm trying to work your shipping out. Shipping is expensive, and I'm trying to work out some details to keep the shipping costs down. My packaging for packaging the quilts will not be here until Thursday. So the Etsy shop probably won't be up and running until late next week. Plus, I have to have some quilts to sell. So I only have 2 available to sell right now. So we have to get to quilting like immediately. So my next video will be making a quilt, and it is coming soon. I'm hoping to shoot that tomorrow. I have all the fabric and everything ready to go. So I want to talk about the sale of the quilts. As I spoke before, I came to quilting through infertility, and during those dark times that we were trying to have a child, you know, I thought a lot about all the things that I wanted to do and accomplish and cherish and cultural wise. And I came to some videos from Jenny Doan from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, Kimberly Jolly from the Fat Quarter Shop, Tula Pink, Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics, and I watched their tutorials over and over again, and kind of, you know, took what I learned from them. I would call them master quilters, and so I'll never be what they are, but they taught me a lot about quilting, or quilt piecing, I should say. I'm a piecer, not necessarily a quilter at this point, but I'm a piecer. A piecer and a binder is what I am. So I was learning to sew and piece quilts together during a very difficult time in my life. And then many of you know Meredith's story. If you don't, it's something maybe I'll share along the way. But she's our miracle baby. She's 3 now, but she's still my baby. She'll always be my baby, my miracle baby. And we had a very difficult time with her birth. She was in the University of Tennessee NICU for 96 days, the first 96 days of her life. Very scary days, very unsure days. And so I believe in tithing. I am a Christian, and I believe my Bible tells me to tithe, and I know that's controversial and subjective. You do you. But I, for me, am convicted to tithe. So I want the first 10% of every quilt sale to go to the University of Tennessee Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. It will be split. It will be split between them and East Tennessee Children's Hospital. After Meredith was released from UT, She's had several stints at East Tennessee Children's Hospital. She has an ophthalmologist there. She has a pulmonologist there. She's been admitted to their hospital many times. So what they do for families and children is beyond anything I could express on camera or with words, and the gratitude that we feel. And we were so blessed. People reach out to us during that time so much that I've always wanted to give back. And by no means am I saying that, you know, I'm going to make a fortune on selling quilts, but even if I only make $10, it's going, you know, I'm going to give back. And I want to give back to those facilities for what they did for us. Meredith's nurses, they know who they are. They know how special they are to us. Give them a wink. The doctors, all of the resources that they provide, the blankets and they had these special bean bags like a hand that couldn't be held, so they had made these bags that laid on the baby's backs. There's so many materials that are required, and so donations go a very long way. Sound machines, and the nurses make these beautiful signs for the babies with their footprints and their progressions and their celebrations. And so even if what little revenue, you know, that I make, I'll send those ties. If it buys, you know, enough paper to make a mama a sign with those babies' footprints, then that's what it'll do. If it buys a blanket, you know, whatever, they can use it for what they need. But that's where your money will go. 10% will be sent directly to them. So again, thank you for watching this video. I know it was a little lengthy. But that's kind of how this is going to go. I have so many fun ideas, quilt patterns, stories, recipes, visits to local locations unique to Appalachia that I want to do. Kind of stepping out on a limb here, stepping out on faith with this. It's a project that's been deep within my heart a long time. I just know how I enjoyed watching other people on YouTube, and I thought, well, you know, I have a little bit of knowledge, and I live in a very special place, and so I want to share that with others, and maybe it'll be a help to them. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll like and subscribe and all of those things that I'm still learning about in this social media driven world. But thank you for your kind comments and for your support, and for going on this journey with me as we preserve all of the wonderful cultural elements of the Appalachian Mountains. So next video, we're gonna make a quilt. So like, subscribe, come back again. My love and appreciation until we meet again.